they're talking about the word lustful. And then people are like, yeah, I mean, it basically means like people who are there for the wrong reason. And then she goes, raise your hand if flesh ever won out. And then everyone's like, what? And then Sierra repeats, she's like, raise your hand if flesh ever won out. And only Teffy raised her hand and no one else did. And then she was like, okay. She's right. Like, we all get lustful. Like, what's the problem? It's like that actually does happen.
It's just so biblical and weird to shame humans for liking other humans when you're all in your 20s and single and on a in bikini. It's just and bathing suits. It's weird on so many levels. I don't understand it.
It goes against
and then
nature.
are asked to perform sexuality in these challenges. It's just and in
the hideaway too.
Yeah,
they're given like whips and chains. Yeah, but it's like, but also don't get lustful. Like, I'm sorry.
And I look at those 20-year-olds and I'm like, y'all don't know. I mean, maybe they do. I don't know what's going on, but like they're so young. Yeah. I don't know.
A lot of it is lust, and that's okay.
Yeah,
it should be both. It should be lustful and loveful, and that should be okay. And in fact, it's nature. So as one of the grandmas says, it goes against nature to suggest that people should have to wait to have sex. So I'm with it.
Come with us. Let's reality test.
Welcome, friends, to Reality Test. What is reality testing, you may ask? Well, it's something we all do when we check our subjective or personal emotions, thoughts, and so forth against objective or fact-based reality. So here in Reality Test, we're going to be testing the castmate realities and the producer antics of our favorite reality TV shows against what we know as licensed psychologists about the reality off of our TVs. We hope you'll join us as we attempt to reality test. That's it. Thanks, y'all. Now check out our campy theme song.
Are you feeling stressed? Your head's all messed? Well, let's forget all the rest. Fuck it, we're blessed. Cause it's time to talk reality test. Come with us. Let's reality test.
Woo! Welcome to Reality Test. I'm Dr. Ray.
I'm Dr. Kay. Feel free to check in and take a seat wherever you like, because we are going to do segments today. We haven't done segments in so long. And also, perhaps the bigger thing, and I buried the lead, is that we're doing Love Island today. We're going to Fiji. Woo!
Thank goodness. Fiji sounds like a great place to go. I am in.
I know. Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous looking, I should say. And also, it has taken us a whole season to get there because it's about the finale almost. We're right up against it. I think it comes out tonight.
Oh my God, are you serious? I'm so far behind. I can't believe you're caught up. But I'm excited to get spoiled because, I don't know, it's still fun. It's still fun to watch.
I did a little spree. I won't spoil anything. Like, there won't be anything. I won't even tell you when certain things happen, so you won't know who's still there when and stuff. So none of mine is related to who comes and goes.
I am very excited because there's been a lot going on this season. And I don't know if you're getting the Corbin memes, but they kill me. The like, Melanie, like tears laughing every time.
His voice is so prolific too. Like, there's something about it.
Yes, it's something else. But yeah, I'm excited to talk all things Love Island because it's been a heck of a season so far. Well, for me so far, but for you all, maybe.
Also still so far, technically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very technical.
Total. Yeah. Technically right up to the edge of technicality.
Indeed.
But
Indubitably.
we're going to do our whole shebang today because it's been a couple weeks. So we're going to do check-in and then reality. No, other way around. Thank you. Sorry about that. We're going to do reality check, which is our psychological study portion where Dr. Ray and I both share a study of interest that could be related to what we're going to talk about today or just something of interest to us. So we're going to start right out with that. Tell me, dear Dr. Ray, what your reality check is about today.
Yes, I'm excited. So my study is called The Evolution of the Manosphere Across the Web by Ribeiro et al. So yeah, I've been seeing a lot of content that kind of discusses how the men on this season seem to have taken the red pill. And I'm like, what's this red pill? And it's a reference from The Matrix, but I guess it's used in modern manosphere terms to be like, oh, you see the truth about gender dynamics or whatever the fuck.
It's an incel term, yeah. Involuntary celibate. Yeah, like and also therefore is used against people. It's not like woke. It's not like you see it like you're woke. It's like a different version where it's like you see how like women unfairly don't get sleep with men that look like us, or it's like that whole other version of it. Oh wait, are you about to explain that? I can totally take that out. I'm sorry. Is that what you're about to say?
Great. But I wasn't going to say that part of it. But that is really helpful context for this study. And it's been so interesting because I remember last year you and I had talked about like it's giving a flavor of like very sexist, like what's going, and it seems like the discourse this year is much more like these are a lot of manosphere men, which is, I kind of like trad wives are fascinating to me. I'm like, what is this culture that I don't understand very well? So what this study kind of talks about, it's a little bit of a just kind of overview of the various sort of manosphere groups that people can fall into and kind of measures their severity. Like there's some, so milder and older communities are like pickup artists and a group called men's rights activists. And then the more extreme ones are incels and men going their own way. So there's like a certain, I think, type of manosphere man that's like, ooh, this is how you get women sort of thing. And I'm an example of how you get women. And I actually saw that in a Netflix special, kind of that flavor of it. And then there's maybe the men who have not had success in that area, who are just like, well, I'm out on women, or, well, not the incels, but the men go their own way, or maybe the like, oh, I'm choosing not to get with women because I see the truth on how women are manipulated kind of thing. But it's interesting. There was one Instagram post I saw that I would love to cite this, but I thought it was really fascinating about how indoctrinated into the manosphere certain members of the Love Island cast are. I think they said Corbin seemed kind of indoctrinated, which I think there are a lot of manosphere men in the Miami circuit. So it kind of makes sense. The one that the person they thought wasn't indoctrinated was Bryce. So, that was their take on it, that he has more respect for women. Sincere, they were like, we don't think he's in the manosphere. We think it's more just who he's acting the way he is. Who else did they? Casey, they said, was like kind of maybe in the manosphere. So that was interesting. If I find that post, I will cite it because I enjoyed reading it.
That makes sense too, because I think Sincere and Casey were like close. So it kind of makes sense that they're either teetering or in it with him if they're thinking Corbin is in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe Corbin is the highest degree of that. But I actually don't know. I don't know. Corbin is an entertaining human to watch on TV. I'll say that. I don't know anyone like him. So
yeah. No, that's true. And there were moments I found him, I'll share one where he was not respectful, but there were moments like with Alana during so you saw Casa Amor.
I am in the midst of Casa Amor.
Okay, good.
I see where it's going.
The first part. Yeah. As long as you saw the part where the women come in, the women are dancing. Okay.
Yep.
So during that part, because Alana, the angel, didn't dance sexually on Corbin, when he was dancing back on her, he just gave her a little twirl and sat her back down. And he was actually very respectful. I thought that was really nice. So I think there are moments with him I actually think he is kind of respectful of women in a different way, and there are moments where I don't feel like that at all. And then I actually kind of contest the Bryce thing too, which I'll tell you about later. But yeah, so I think that's interesting. I think there's also the intersection of like patriarchal, like how much is it manosphere and how much is it just like, for example, in Miami, where there are some of the more Hispanic cultural ties, that some of those are just more patriarchal. And so that would just mean that therefore also like some of it is would look manospheric without it necessarily being like, oh, woe is me for not being able to get women or whatever.
Right. I don't think Corbin has that problem. Bryce is giving a little like sad boy entitlement to, I felt like the way he entered Casa and the way he was like kind of the way that he was responding to women dancing on him, Trinity was like, that actually just gave me the ick. And I think what she was responding to was like, it felt very racialized in the way and so, yeah, I don't know that I agree with that. Maybe I need to see more, but yeah. And there's nothing wrong with a sad boy, but it's like the intersection of sad boy and entitlement to women is something to be a little nervous about, maybe.
Exactly. I love that. Great point.
So
Yeah.
manosphere. I'm learning more about trad wives in the manosphere.
I love it. I love it. We got to know all sides. Exactly. And I think the darkest part of the manosphere being the incel demographic that is bitter and is suggesting that they're, not choosing to be celibate, but because they know that women will never understand them, they just like are okay with being celibate because it's women's fault. Like, it's okay because it's not my fault. It's women's, and so that is just such a dark position to take, and obviously deeply sexist and misogynistic and dangerous. There have been crimes. I mean, like incels, there was the van murders in Toronto. That was an incel connected crime, and then they murdered people with a van. And then another one is Eli Rogers. I want to say it's Eli Rogers. Yeah, I think so. But he's seen as like have you heard of this? He was a spree killer, and he's seen as like the godfather of incels because he wrote this manifesto about how it was so unfair that women didn't want to sleep with him, and this is all the problems with women. And then he went and tried to kill these attractive women from his school, and so he went to like different bars and all this stuff and killed a bunch of people that day, and then killed himself. Or police killed him, one of those, but he died same day. And so he's seen as like our God. They even use that word or whatever. They're like our godfather or whatever, something like that. It's really gross. So literally, it can be dangerous. That subgroup, definitely something to keep an eye on for all of us for safety reasons. But yeah, also out of interest for the larger manosphere that's less harmful, out of interest.
Yes.
To look at it.
Woof. Yeah. So I'm so curious to hear about your study.
Okay, fabulous. So it's definitely not Eli Rogers. That's a football player. Let me just really check. Elliot. Okay, it's close as F, but yeah, it's
really close.
Elliot Roger. Yeah, Elliot Roger without an S. So it's very, very close. And he is also considered an incel hero, is the point. So he's considered I do think they say godfather, though, or something like that. But he's also been considered an incel hero because he had the manifesto. Okay. Anyway, just wanted to make sure I didn't give poor sweet football player there. He might not even be sweet, but I may have just accidentally tarnished his name there. So I'm glad we checked that out. My study also has a gender dynamic to it as well. And it is about people pleasing, y'all, because that is a hot topic in this season. So we will talk about that. One of the like, how would I give therapy to somebody section is going to go into more of a clinical way. So right now I'm just going to talk about the psych study part of it. So one thing is it's considered a fawn response. And so we've all heard of like fight or flight, which is what happens when our amygdala fires off because it thinks we're in danger. So we fight or flight, but it's actually fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, where freeze can also be faint. And then there's one, I think there's another one too, even. But the idea is fawn is one that typically women will adopt, which is where we like people please or like try to take care of the other person as a way of reacting to danger, so that it's a way of avoiding abandonment or avoiding danger. And so people pleasing is seen in that way as a type of avoiding the danger of abandonment. And as we know from the social pain overlap theory by Eisenberger and Lieberman, which I brought up before, but why I say we know is because I brought it up many a time on the podcast. So many of you probably don't know, or some of you don't know. But the social pain overlap theory suggests that our brain fires exactly the same way if we're in physical danger as if we're in social danger, meaning like if we're at risk of not belonging or at risk of being abandoned, our brain fires the same way as if we're in physical danger. So that means that very much relates to why this is a fawn response. It's like our brain is actually saying you're in danger because of social threat, meaning we might not feel like a belongingness, and so therefore we people please. So that means that we most typically become people pleasers when our parents are conditionally loving. So like when we have to be a certain way to get love or to get affection, then that means we're also more likely to grow up with a biochemical loop that happens where it's like, okay, when I get social approval, my dopamine fires off. And so then that means I'm going to be more likely to do that, which is why I become people pleasing. And the thing with people pleasers, so this is where I'm going to move into the part that's close to my study, is people who are people pleasers have actually quite low self-worth. And in fact, don't even really know what their wants, desires, or needs are. And that very much can look like the castmate sincere, because the reason being that they get feelings of worth by being validated or praised by others, and so they're putting other people's needs first, but ultimately in a selfish pursuit. So it can look really bizarre to some people because they're sort of copying other people's behavior. They might have false agreement. They have difficulty setting boundaries, difficulty saying no. They over apologize, but also over take blame, and so forth. And so those types of activities or sort of like presentations are something to just sort of think about as we talk about some of the things later that have been ascribed to some of the men. And then I have some other thoughts about some of the women as well. So that is sort of the background on that. The study I looked at is technically called, I will tell you right now, it is going to need form resubmission. And of course, thank you, ResearchGate. You're such a gem. So, okay, here we go. Yes. So the role of attachment insecurity in people pleasing. Okay. So one of the things was when I was looking for a people pleasing study, a lot of them are actually psychometric, which means they're about surveys and trying to make them like valid and internally consistent and so forth. And so there are 2 surveys, just out of interest if anyone's interested. There are 2 surveys that have been well documented. One is called the Chinese people pleasing questionnaire, which I was like, and, I made a face if you watch the video. But the main point being that it is normed on Chinese folks. And the point also there being like it is in a collectivist culture. And so that's slightly different. And so the other one that is not Chinese is just called very much so the people pleasing scale. So that's also out there. But those studies were not of interest to me. So instead, though, I found this one about attachment theory, which will come back a little bit later. But the main thing is they looked at this idea of emotional closeness versus proximity seeking versus insecurity. So just as background to attachment theory, our attachment to our parents and caregivers as a baby has different features to it. One is how much do we proximity seek? So how much do we want closeness with our caregivers? How much do we yearn for it? How much do we pull for it? And then insecurity is a different part of attachment where it's sort of like an internal system where it is like, I trust that my needs will get met. Basically, that's all it is. It's like, do I trust my needs will get met? Do I trust myself to get my needs met? Do I trust other people to meet my needs? That's the internal insecurity piece. So they looked at when we're talking about people who are people pleasing, do they have signs in either of these directions? And so what they found was, yes, folks who are people pleasing have very high insecurity, meaning that they don't believe their needs will get met easily. So they have to work at it, which is why they will engage in people pleasing. But they are not high proximity seeking. And I thought that was quite interesting because we might think of people pleasing as being a bid for closeness, like you're sort of like doing it to pull somebody closer. But actually, it's not intended to be that. It doesn't even come out of that. And so it's not meant to be, let's get closer. It's meant to be like, okay, I just want to make sure you will meet my needs when I need you to. Not like, okay, I want to make sure we're good or like I want to get close with you.
So surprising.
Right? It's an interesting distinction, and especially because women are more typically engaging in people pleasing, although I'll come back to some stats on that later again too. But although we are more typical and we tend to be relational beings and want closeness, it is interesting in that way as well. But it's just not where this specific tendency comes from. So something to keep in mind. And then the other thing that was just an added bonus from this study that was kind of cool was that they found that people who live with their grandparents have higher proximity seeking. So they do look for closeness and yearn for closeness, which might make sense with having not had their bio parents in the household. But then people who were close with their fathers had higher insecurity. I know.
Huh.
Interesting, right? I was like, okay. So that, to me, that kind of cues in for the conditional loving part. Like I'm sort of thinking about the fathers can be withholding historically. This is not always true at all. This is broad strokes that fathers can have that, or men in general can be more emotionally withdrawn. And so that can feel like withholding to children. And then that feels conditional. And then that can turn into this insecurity. So I thought that might be a relevant piece, but to why that finding was found. But this was an irrelevant side note to my original point, which is just about the idea of proximity seeking versus insecurity and what people pleasing can look like. So yeah, some things to hold in mind.
Fascinating. Wow.
Let me see the authors. Let me see the authors as well. I tried to keep the study up and everything for this very reason. And then I was like, nope, no authors. I wrote this. I came up with this study myself. So no need to cite it. I'm just kidding. Okay, so this came in the lecture notes in education psychology and public media. And the authors are, it's just one author, and his name is Zhang. So Yibo Zhang from UC Irvine.
I am fascinated by this whole study.
Yeah, right? It's interesting.
Wow. I want to read more about this. That's really interesting. And yeah, I think that is where sincere is coming from, is like, and you see him do it, and it's like, oh my gosh, bro. Yeah. It's coming out of total insecurity and not necessarily to get closer. And that might be part of why also Melanie was like, so why don't I feel pleased? Because it's like not actually about getting closer to her is not the point. And then the oh my God, I saw a meme that was like, oh, you're a people pleaser. Name 3 people who you pleased.
Right now, rapid fire. 3. That's great. I love that. That's great. And I have more thoughts on that too. But the other thing I was going to say was that this study's from 2025 too. So it's recent, which is of interest as well, I think. Yeah. So check it out.
Check it out. Yeah.
And speaking of check it out, how about check in, which is the next part, which is when we check in and tell each other what's on our hearts and minds, because that's also what we're carrying into the rest of this podcast. And by the way, we are therapists, but not your therapists. We're not the therapists of the people we're going to be talking about. So even though we might mention things that are mental health related, we don't know that because we have not assessed any of these people formally, nor would we tell you if we had, but we also just have not. So in this case, it's very much conjecture. And so, take it with a grain of salt. And with that in mind, though, will you please tell me what's on your heart and mind?
I will indeed. So my little jazzy girl, I am so proud of her. So there are 2 German shepherds that live next door. They fence fight. It has been a whole thing. We had to put up a wooden fence. There was a hole in the wooden fence. Just all of these things that happened. So we put up another fence and a garden to keep her from fence fighting. Last night, Connor and I were doing a crossword puzzle outside, sitting on our deck, and the dog started barking at her, and she grabbed a stick and went to the other side of the yard. And I literally got teary-eyed because I'm like, I have never been so proud. I'm like, so it's just, my little girl has a lot of issues with aggression with other dogs, and it has been very tricky for us. It's one of those things that just is hard to manage. It just is. And the fact that she did that, because before she just impulsively bolts at them, it was a big deal. And I was like, wow. So yeah, I am still thrilled. I hope it continues because I think it will help her feel safer and maybe interact with dogs better in the future. And even if she doesn't interact with dogs, feel more safe in herself. So I was very proud of her.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it will make total sense. And it makes sense too that if she's feeling safer, it'll get reinforced. She'll do it more often. That'd be great.
Oh, it killed me. I was beyond proud of my little girl. But
proud
yeah,
parent.
she's.
I love it. Proud parent moment. Gets a gold star. She gets a gold star. That's so impressive. Good for her. And good for you. And good for the training y'all have been doing.
Yes.
It's great.
Whew. Not easy. Not easy when dogs get aggression towards other dogs. It is a whole ass thing I can attest to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet. Yeah. I've only ever really had pugs, and they kind of don't give a fuck. And it's great.
Don't.
They're very much in their own world. They think they're human, I think. It's great.
So they kind of are.
Yeah, they are. You're right. They are a little bit human. Yeah, they are. But
what is on
great.
your heart and mind?
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much.
Of course. Well, okay, so this is going to be another bid, so you can't describe it, but it's going to be another bid for watching the videos because we're up to date, baby, and I figured out a template system, so it's going to be much faster. This video is going to be up within the week of this audio coming out. Watch out for that on patreon.com/realitytest, capital R, capital T. Or maybe not. Maybe you can do without capitals. I actually have no idea. I should check that out. But yeah, I'm going to show you now the update on my, I guess it's like embroidery or something.
Yay!
Okay, ready? So now this is part of it. Can you see that? Yeah.
So cute.
Coming out straight to you, right? Not backwards.
It's coming out straight to me. Yes.
Okay. So that's the written
I
part.
love it.
Okay. And then watch the back. So check out the back too, because, well, first of all, I like sewed it together so that when you see it, like, first of all, it has this little thing. Like, look at that. To hang it.
Adorable.
And then also,
OMG.
I know.
This is so good.
I'm so proud of it.
Holy
I'm going to
shit.
do, I think, Christmas gifts like adjacent. And then look at the other side.
I love that.
Isn't that
This
cute
is
as a button?
adorable.
Thank you so much. So I was thinking about doing that as like my home. I always do like homemade gifts for my family. Like I do like paintings or something. So this year I think it's going to be this, and I'm pretty jazzed on it. I think this part looks really good. My whole point was to do like sassy expressions on this side so that, if they want to show their sassy side, they can have that facing out. Or if they have guests, they can flip it over and have them see the more refined, could buy this in a store side.
And what is so cool about that is like the green, you like trickle it in. Like it's like, it looks, wow, that is so
on that.
good.
There's like 6 different layers of color.
Oh,
And then even within the like pinks, there are different pinks and stuff too. And then, yeah.
that is awesome.
Have to see it to know it, y'all. But yeah, thank you so much. I'm excited about it. I keep like working on it around my family, but being like, don't look. Because if I decide to make this a homemade gift, you can't know. Yeah, you can't know what this is. So that's why I'm also not describing it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, thank you. I'm excited about it. But yeah, so I figured I'd close that loop because last we spoke about it, it was early stages. Yeah.
Well, just like in the villa, you see early days, you see where everyone's come. And my goodness, this is like a successful villa relationship. has come a long way.
We graduated from the villa. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And also like exactly parallel, because we did last speak when it was just starting the season, and now the season is ending. So it does make sense. We've come full circle. And whatever this was, that was a full circle.
Yes.
That looks
to
like
be very clear.
Yeah.
If you watch the video, you'll see it.
Yes. You can see what a full circle is today by
Yes.
going to patreon.com/reality test.
Thank goodness to be a lifelong learner. You can learn what a circle is. You can learn about crafting. So many things. Only
Psychological
video
studies.
members.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because also we're both very emotive. So I think you would learn more about the studies we talk about by watching the videos. And all of the other ones are up there and ready to go. You can either pay for one individually for $10 if there's one in particular you like, or you can buy the whole collection for a good amount more, or you can become a member for only $5 a month, and then you get access to all of them for the whole month. Why wouldn't you do that? I would do it. So, and you can delete it if you want, whatever. But at some point, do it for a night and watch all the videos at once, whatever you want to do. We understand money is tight. It is for us too. We get that. And also, thank you so much to those who pay for our memberships. We so appreciate you immensely. And also those who are free members too. And if you're interested in being a free member, let me tell you, you get the audio a night early, if not more, if we're ready earlier, so that you could get this before anyone else does for free, just becoming a free member. The other thing is that we're about to launch the subscription model on Apple, which is not the Apple subscription because they charge money annually, which is rude. But if when I release the Patreon podcast onto Apple, then that will be you have to pay through Patreon to get access to it, but you'll see that it's on your regular podcast apps when you do so. So that'll have videos. I don't know if you know this, by the way, Dr. Ray. Apple just started using video, so now you can get the videos on Apple Podcasts if you become a Patreon member.
Cool. I did not know that at all. And I invite you all to look deeply within yourselves. Think about what this podcast has meant to you. And if you can't afford those $5 a month, to do so, to make that claim. I'm being inspired by NPR and how they make bids for people to be financial members.
Please teach me your ways. That's important because they've worked on that for a long time. They have well honed that skill of getting folks involved.
They surely have. So, we want to keep doing this.
Yeah.
So,
and it is friggin' tough, let me tell you. It is friggin' tough. We both have gotten promotions recently, and gotten higher up on the ladder, which means we're also doing more work than ever before. So it's harder than ever to make this happen, which is also why it hasn't been weekly, and we apologize for that. But we're doing our best. There might be times where it is weekly and times where it's bi-weekly, depending on if I'm doing a solo pod in there. But Dr. Ray and I together are going to do bi-weekly-ish, to the ish, if you will. So thank you for your understanding. And also, we still have other juicy things going on. So you would still get a lot of content out of becoming a member of our Patreon. In fact, if there's a week we're not meeting, it might be even easier for me to create different kind of behind the scenes content because we're not doing our regular podcast anyway. And the other thing too is that I have some social media videos coming out starting today. So that means they've already been coming out by the time you listen to this. So check out our Instagram at Reality Test Podcast.
Indeed. Yes. So that's our bid to you all.
Giving you our call to action, CT mother effing A. So with that in mind, let's jump the frig in. So these are our segments, and these segments, as you recall, if you're a listener, are 6. There are 6 of them, and they are all psychology related. So this means that there's certain types of topics we both cover. We haven't talked about with each other yet. We haven't even talked about Love Island together, so I don't even know Dr. Ray's opinion about Love Island in general this season. So this is very exciting. So our first segment is, if the producers of Love Island were psychologists, what aspect of it would look different, and what would it look like?
Okay. I feel like Gabrielle got a pass for lying to Beatrice, and it ticked me off. He kissed like 3 women in one day or 2, and he said that he only kissed one person or only had kissed them at night or something. I can't remember, but I'm like, you're lying. And I felt like that loop didn't get closed, and I guess I understand why, because then she ended up going home, which was a huge miss because she was so good. And I
was watching at that point.
Yeah, I'm so sad, and I wish the producers, I'm pivoting because Gabrielle should not have lied. I thought they were really cute together, and I wish, I understand you got to explore it, but I don't think he was honest, and I didn't like that. But producers, you've intervened in the past to keep people on your show, and you should have done more for Beatrice. That's going to be my new one. So I see you. You made a mistake there because she was a great character to your programming. And that's a shame.
Yes, exactly. I totally agree. She was a massive, massive part of the season, just even in the short amount of time she was there. And she deserved much more airtime and much more flowers, you know. And I've thought about that a little bit later about the Aftersun too. Have you been watching the Aftersun episodes with Sierra?
Not, but I should as a Sierra supporter.
I think you might want to. I actually kind of enjoy them. One of the things they're doing as a segment is what they film the castmates that get evicted looking at their phones for the first time. So you see them like getting to find out that they were loved or getting to find out that they were hated or And so Beatrice got to see her like absolute fandom gone wild for her. Like she just was such a fan favorite and for good reason. So that was so touching. I was crying watching. It was great. But then I also will give you some of my thoughts about Aftersun, which is why I ask as well. So you'll hear some of my like unfiltered thoughts about that as well. But for now, it's really funny you say that because I have an exact opposite take about Gabrielle also for this segment, which is hilarious, which is that I felt like Gabrielle was given, and you don't know this because you weren't watching Aftersun. That's why. Okay. I didn't even think about how related this was, but actually related to that. I think Gabrielle was given a bad edit. So I think actually Gabrielle was like very, very, so both Sean, the guy who went home almost right away, and Beatrice both
I really liked.
I love Sean. Yeah. It's great.
It was great.
But he said it first, and then Beatrice also said it later that Gabrielle was nothing like how we were seeing him, and that like they think that. So like Sean was asked like if anybody's getting the wrong image of them out, like who would you say? He said Gabrielle right away. He was like, oh yeah, no, he's so funny, he's so down to earth, he's so smart, he knows 3 languages, he works in computer sciences. We knew none of that. None of it. And it felt like such a Don Juan edit. Like I felt like he got the like Don Juan kissing everybody edit. And Beatrice felt so hurt by it, frankly, because she was like, because she talked to her friend, for example, when she first gets her phone back, she talked to her friend and her friend was like, we loved Sean. We didn't like Gabrielle. Like, here's why. And she was like, I don't think you know Gabrielle then. Like, I don't think you get it because he actually was fantastic. She was like, I know he leads with his sexuality because he's Hispanic, but like not the thing. Like, she was like, that's really not what he's like. He's actually really funny and he's really smart and da-da-da. And so it really goes to show that both of them had that opinion separately. It made me think like he really got kind of screwed there. So I feel like that was a touch racist. Yeah. And a touch racist. Yeah. Because of Don Juan.
Then I revoke my take because, maybe he was, because I felt like he was smooching women. And then he was like, oh, yes, I kissed this person tonight. And I'm like, but you also kissed both of them in the morning. Why are you? And I really didn't like that for Bea. However, knowing that there's all of these, he did seem open-minded. And I think that was put forth. And that's a good thing. Like, I like
down to earth. He didn't seem down to earth, and he didn't seem smart. Frankly, they did not make him seem smart. I mean, like, it's not that he seemed dumb, but like they didn't like tell us any of that. I mean, I had no idea. Like, did you know he had 3 languages and was in computer science, like getting a degree and whatever? So I think they really shortchanged him. I know they really shortchanged him on that. And I wonder. It makes me wonder if that night he had only kissed one person so far. Like when he told her, you know, like what if they took a snippet from when he had only done that so far? It's possible they made him look like he was lying. Yeah,
because that's awful. If that's the edit he got, then that sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that super sucks. And if he was lying and sort of people pleasing, if you will, by misrepresenting it to not hurt Beatrice's feelings, I just don't see it. I don't see it. I was going to say if he was doing that, then like that is something we should raise up. And I totally agree with that. It just should have been in context of like all the good things too. Like it should have been a well-rounded view, which he didn't get no matter what. But I actually just don't believe he did. I don't know. There's something about how he was so frank about it, even with his time with Jen, where he just was like, yeah, listen, like I still like Beatrice, like, you know, or whatever. He just seemed very frank about his emotions with folks that I kind of don't see him. I don't see him caring enough to lie about it. Like, I think he would have been like, of course, I kissed the 3 of them. Like, okay, you know. So I don't know. But maybe, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? That's helpful, though.
Yeah, right. I know, right? It's important to know. And then the thing that I really didn't like, so there's 2 more things that related to this. One is that Bryce, when the other thing that cued me into the fact he got it wrong at it too, is that so then Gabrielle goes home and Bryce says, just because he's promiscuous doesn't mean you can't find love. Like, that's the most slut-shaming thing I've seen in my entire life. I was like, Bryce, sit the fuck down. Like, first of all, you're right. Like, but also promiscuous, judgmental word for that. And then thirdly, like, I'm motherfucking what? That's the most slut-shaming thing you've seen in your life? I'm so sorry. It's definitely worse against women all the time. All the time.
Including on this very show where you're calling everyone fucking lustful. I hate that word, lustful. It's like, is this Bible study? Like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Because it is meant judgmentally.
Lustful. Yeah. I'm like, what are we doing? I really don't like that word.
And to use it, because like I think there's also something about like lust could be something we embrace also. It should be like reclamation. Yeah. Not something that
it's great that women have lust and I think they maybe used it once against Corbin too, which maybe is racialized, but it was mostly like Kenzie and Melanie, I think, who got the lustful.
There you go. Exactly.
Edit.
That was my next point, which is that he's out here saying that about friggin' Gabrielle, which fair that he might have been slut-shamed in some ways. But then meanwhile with Kenzie, she's getting slut-shamed up, right, center, left, and whatever. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, and I actually thought that, like, you'll see with the family day that things shift a little bit. But I thought I had a very unpopular opinion that I felt like she was being slut-shamed and that she was absolutely not in the wrong. But it'll make more sense what I'm saying later. But just it turns out that other people also saw it that way. So I'm grateful for that I'm not the first to be fuck out of her. What are we doing? Like, she's just getting totally the wrong, attitude from people. It's so frustrating. Even the women, frankly. So it's unfortunate. So just to have him say that, and then this is happening meanwhile with Kenzie, where I was like, and it's so inherent. That's what sexism is. That's what misogyny is. That's what patriarchy is. Like, you're quick to notice it being about Gabrielle, but not about Kenzie when everybody's engaging in it. So I can't do it. I can't do it. I was so over it with that comment. And that's part of why I also think I question the idea of Bryce being totally woke, if you will, about, like, I don't think he is actually that aware of women's rights or patriarchy or the effects of such. So I think he's very naive and ignorant and then very sweet. Like, I think he has a very sweet part to him. And that also comes out of like a very deep ignorance, and that's okay. Everybody has some of that, and it gets worked out in different ways. I think being with a woman of color, he'll learn a lot, and I hope it's not at the expense of her, but I think that will also help him learn some things.
Yeah. He is lucky if him and Trinity are still together, he's very lucky to be with her because she is a fucking gem. Oh my God, the human. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And by the way, to say, like, now that we're reminding me too, that when I say at Family Day, I find out there's more complication, it doesn't even mean that Kenzie made it there. It's really about the conversation. I learned more about the conversation there. So I just want to clarify that if anyone else has not seen the Family Day yet. So it doesn't mean anything about who's still there. Also, do you like Anaya? I think the other thing is I love Anaya, and I think that was the other thing I think producers, if they were psychologists, would have done was give us more of an image of her earlier. Mm-hmm. So I feel like we didn't even really get what was going on with her until later. And Sean, again, in his when he was asked who else did you find attractive in the house, he goes Anaya, and they were like, whose girlfriend would you take if you could? Casey. Like he was like all over Anaya. They said like, who has the best style? He's like, Casey's unfuckable, but at the same time, like Anaya. So he just was like all about her. And I was like, okay, I don't even really fully remember who Anaya is, frankly, And so then I got into it and I was like, oh my God, I love her. She's an absolute queen. And so I think they underplayed her significance in the beginning and I think with all of them, that's probably fair. But just the way that she is like kind of become a focal point in a major way is like the model for the women. I think that they sort of didn't give us that cue at first.
Yeah. This is very good to know. Okay, well, spotted therapy. So did you spot therapy? And if so, who do you, what did it look like? How did you feel about it?
Yes. So I know somebody said something about being in therapy. I just forget who. I think it was maybe like Anaya or Melanie. And maybe you cover this, so I'll leave it. But instead, I'm going to do like who I think may have been to therapy. And again, this is from Aftersun, so I'm going to explain it just really quickly. So first of all, Aftersun is hosted by Sierra and someone named Teffy. And Teffy's a podcast host. And so I'm going to come back to her a little bit because there are parts of her that I like and parts I didn't. But one of the things that happened on Aftersun is that Beatrice was very forthcoming and it was so fun. She was like just laying everything out, like here's the tea, here's the dirt. But then she also talked about herself. And so one of the things she said was, I didn't even wear shorts until I was 17 years old. And it was sort of a fake it till you make it thing where I wasn't always like this. Like I wasn't always confident in myself to wear the metal leg. And so one of the things that Teffy said that really made me like dislike Teffy. So at first I was like, oh my God, I cannot watch Teffy. She's very frustrating. She goes, I know there are people who would say that your representation really, really matters. What? What? huh? You know,
would you say that?
Some people would say that. I'm pretty sure we all fucking feel that way, hopefully. I mean, obviously there's probably some people that don't, but like, it shouldn't be some people say your representation matters. I think just how about your representation really matters, period.
That is bizarre.
But didn't love that. I was like, what? No shit. But I will just say really quickly that the thing that made me really like her was that Sierra grabs the bucket of people who watch, audience questions. She picks it up and she's like, yeah, we got the whole kit and caboodle. And Teffy just cracks up. She's just like, oh my God, and just like laughs really hard. And Sierra looks at her with this look that I have totally given people before, where it's this look where you're sort of like, I'm not going to shame you for laughing at my jokes because I feel like you're laughing for me, not at me. And I appreciate you laughing for me. So I'm not going to shame you, but why are you laughing? Like, I wasn't that funny. You know, it's like sort of that look, you know,
it was
it's like
a little much.
Look.
Yeah. I
like,
love that.
Yeah, she was like, oh, like say more kind of. And Teffy just goes, Teffy just sort of like sighs and she goes, oh, you thrill me. I don't even know. It's just actually really great. I know that sounds weird, but I just like the way she did it. I was like, oh my God, that's actually great. What a great recovery. Like, she's like, you thrill me. I was like, that's actually hilarious.
Just like awkward and then recognize, and then like, oh God, I'm doing too much. What should I say here? You thrill me.
Yeah. And there's something about just saying you thrill me to somebody. I think maybe just that, even that phrase, I was like, I want to use that phrase. That's hilarious. I love that phrase. And something about, you thrill me. I was like, oh God, that's fucking funny. I was like, damn it, you won me back over.
I have a friend who's my age who always says, oh, you guys keep me young. She's been saying it since college. And it's just, it's kind of like that. Oh, you
exactly like that.
It's just like a funny platitude.
Perfect. So yeah, keep that friend in mind, because that's what it was like. I was like, oh, that's so good. Great recovery. Love it. That's hilarious. So then I was like, okay, maybe I'm in with her. And then there were other moments that I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm now in. So I will tell you that my overall view on the Aftersun is that I started out sort of being like, ooh, they're doing too much. And I have come to the conclusion that they're so authentic and so genuine, and I fucking love it. I think they're both great. And they're both being their whole selves, and I love them together. I think it's what Maura tried to do last year. It's way better than last year. Even though I love Maura, I actually love her. So it's not no shade there, but yeah, they just it's phenomenal. I actually really recommend watching it. They're so funny. So I give them a really hard thumbs up. One of the things you'll like is that in the conversation about the lustful language is that there's a whole group of people talking. I won't say who, it's people that went home. There's a whole group of people talking, and they're talking about the word lustful. And then people are like, yeah, I mean, it basically means like people who are there for the wrong reason. And then she goes, raise your hand if flesh ever won out. And then everyone's like, what? And then Sierra repeats, she's like, raise your hand if flesh ever won out. And only Teffy raised her hand and no one else did. And then she was like, okay. She's right. Like, we all get lustful. Like, what's the problem? You know, it's like that actually does happen.
It's just so biblical and weird to shame humans for liking other humans when you're all in your 20s and single and on like in bikini. It's just and bathing suits. It's weird on so many levels. I don't understand it.
It goes against
and then are asked to perform sexuality in these challenges. It's just, and in
the hideaway too.
Yeah.
They're given like whips and chains. Yeah. But it's like, but also don't get lustful. Like, I'm sorry.
And I look at those 20-year-olds and I'm like, y'all don't know. I mean, maybe they do. I don't know what's going on. But like, they're so young. Yeah. I don't know. It's just,
a lot of it is lust, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It should be both. It should be lustful and loveful, and that should be okay. And in fact, it's nature. So as one of the grandmas says, it goes against nature to suggest that people should have to wait to have sex. So I'm with it. I think that there should definitely be, more of it. So I liked that she kind of gave it a vote, even though like no one else was, and they didn't really ever land on it. It showed that she was in her mind sort of like, like, what are we doing here? Yeah. So I give her major props for that. And so just to end back with Beatriz, she said also, I used to be a lot more explosive. She said, I used to think, keep your shit together, make sure that you're composed so someone doesn't blindside you later and use it against you. So just the way she said that, I was like, I think she had therapy during that period of time. And that's part of why she really has that like down. And it also could have been something that like a coach said to her one day and she was like, got it. It's possible. So it might not be a therapist, but there was a part of me that was like maybe sports psychologist or no psychologist or a therapist, or she had like a really great mentor. But that was kind of the closest I came to being like, I see it.
Yeah. This was a hard one because I don't know that a lot of them have gotten therapy. However, I do think that Trinity is incredibly self-aware, and talk about a high EQ. I feel like she just sees things. I mean, I haven't seen the whole, I just feel like, and even the way she just clocks people and situations, and there are subtle things that she'll say that like with the whole Melanie situation, and that's a complicated situation, but like, you know, some of Melanie's at times behavior was very like in, out, I don't know what's happening. And there were just subtle things that Trinity would say in like the dressing room that were not mean, but just like made me feel like I just feel like she saw things. And then when there were misses between like the women early on, I think it was Beatrice and Melanie, actually, I feel like Trinity did a nice job being like, I love you. I get where you're coming from. The way you said it just there was like a little more, maybe more blunt than what this person could hear. I just feel like her EQ is super high, and maybe that's therapy. Maybe that's just her, but
Right.
Yeah.
And also, I think being a Black woman in today's society, because also some of her EQ showed up with Bryce as far as like, it would feel extra awful for him to leave me for what he's used to and what he's comfortable with a white woman. And so just the way she named that. Yeah. And the way she named it.
Well, I don't know if
she didn't say white. Because she also didn't say white with Kata.
Yeah.
She said with what he's comfortable with. But when she talked about it separate from Kata, she said with a white person. But then with Kata, she's like with someone he's more comfortable with. That looks more comfortable to him. And I thought that was really smart the way she said that. She didn't say she's white, you know, and I don't think she necessarily is. I think she might be, I think she's biracial. And also, by the way, from New Hampshire, which is near our neck of the woods at least. So go New England.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she that was very smart how she handled that. And then it was smart how she handled it with Bryce. And I don't think he handled it well at all. I think he had a terrible answer to that. He was like, well, none of that matters because I just really like you. I was like, nope, no, sir. Say more, please. Say more about race. Say one word about race. Say race. Say the word race.
Say race.
Just say race.
R-A-C-E, race.
Yeah. All you got to do. Give me that. Give me just that. That would be great. And like something happened in this most recent episode. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, someone else, any person at all, said something recently to someone where they were talking about like, oh, when I grew up, I felt like I was really overshadowed by a sibling, and like it was really hard for me. Like I always felt like I was really like not good enough. And then somebody says in response, they're like, well, I had a really good childhood. Like, so my childhood was like really good. My childhood, I was like, what? I was like, wait a minute, go back, go back to what they just said. What they just said really matters. And you're kind of going, woo. So it reminds me of when Bryce did that about the race thing. I was sort of like, wait a minute, come back. Yeah. We're talking about something else here, and it's actually very important. And saying like, oh, good, my childhood was great is not a nice thing to say to somebody who's saying like, I had a really tough time.
Not the time, not the moment.
So that's sort of where I say the ignorant thing too. Okay, so this next one is one of two options. You can either say, if one of my clients said XYZ, what would I say back to them? Or you can take it as, if one of our clients had this presenting concern, how might I, as a psychotherapist or couples counselor, address or intervene around it?
So I'm so curious to see where things go with Anaya, because early on in the show, pre-Casa, she was very concerned about Casey. And I think she was picking up on something, to be fair. But I'm not, but then it almost felt like a central relational paradox thing where then Casey was like, well, fuck it. But I don't know how much of that is just Casey. I'm not far enough into the Casa journey to know. I know he's enjoying his time with a few of the women and seems to be like gassed up by the men, like, oh, you've been too tied down. And I would imagine as like a Black woman who has had to, date, and maybe certain men are like quick to say certain things, and based on her experience, she maybe has a hard time trusting. So there's a lot of both ends there of like, yeah, maybe Casey wasn't trustworthy and she was picking up on that. And at the same time, like it did feel like her insecurities about Casey at times maybe pushed him away further. So yeah. And so I would want to explore that with her and her dating history and kind of what helps her to feel secure so that she can better articulate that to others. And maybe like let go of control and certainty a little bit in those sorts of situations and let people explore, to use the word of the season, so that they may come back, right? But yeah.
Yeah, if you hold too tight a fist, then they're definitely not going to come back.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. No, yeah, nice. I think she would be really important to work with in some important relational work. I think she's also really phenomenal. So I think she would grasp and take interest in that kind of work, which is really cool too. Not that people have to be great to do that, but it helps. So Um, so I would say mine is also relational, and it is for the men collectively of the season. And so what is it that's happening? Right, totally. What is it that's happening? We're talking about people pleasing. To me, I don't think it's that. I think it's image management, which has also been talked about in Aftersun a little bit, where they're like, they just care so much about the good guy edit, which is one way to put it. And I do get that. I do think it is like the good guy edit. And I think in general, it's image management, like put more broadly than the good guy edit. So like, for example, with Sincere, I think part of what's the problem here is that he was being disrespectful, not just misleading. Like, you know, so like there's so part of the people pleasing edit, like part of the people pleasing, because some of this comes with Casa. So it will, no.
Sincere's people pleasing with Soul is for sure.
Ew.
Like, what?
It was Soul, so that's not Casa. Good. Okay. So perfect, because that's what I'm referring to as Soul. So with Soul, his people pleasing, like, so for example, Mela was like, how are you people pleasing if you're not pleasing me? My answer to that would typically be, well, because he felt safe with you, he thought you would stick around. So he was actually people pleasing Soul to try to get her to like him more, because he was sort of interested to see if she would like him. But I actually don't think it was even that, because I think even in how he handled it in both places, he should have known that they would find out. And so he was just in the moment trying to not look like a dick, and he didn't want to disappoint anybody in the moment. So like, yeah, that's people pleasing, but it's also like, I just don't want to look like a dick, you know? I think there's a way in which like that isn't actually pleasing, obviously, for any of them. But so I'm going to come back to that in a second, which is to say, though, that I also think for all of the men first, and then I'll come back to the specific, it's that they're disrespecting on top of exploring. What Sincere was doing was disrespectful, not just exploring.
Yes.
So it's the disrespecting on top of exploring, which is not people pleasing. And then his way of managing it, the image around it, was to lie, and that made it worse. And so that was additionally disrespectful. But then I also think the other thing that's a problem with all of these men is I do not believe a single one of them actually understands the intersection of misogyny and racism. I don't think one of them does. And I think if one of them did, it would be totally different. I think there would be a totally different conversation happening. I think that Bryce has the opportunity to learn about that from Trinity, because she's offering to teach him about it, and he isn't grasping it or trying to at all that I've seen. And so that really bums me out. And I think Corbin's another person who like almost touches on getting it sometimes, where I'm like, oh, and then it's like, nope, no, he doesn't get it. So I really, it's a bummer to me. And I think it's a problem. I think that Love Island in the future needs to make sure that there is at least one or two people on the cast that understands that, because it is a huge difference in terms of how they would act. These men all act like absolute children, and it's horrific.
Yes.
So
it really
I think they needed something a better example in there.
More critical consciousness.
That's exactly it. That's what it is.
It's just missing completely. It's really
critical
strange.
consciousness in the specific, in this case, of misogyny and racism, that intersection. That's a specific type of critical consciousness that I think needs to happen. But I do think in general they don't have any critical consciousness. I mean, maybe some on racism, and maybe that, I mean, and there has to be. I imagine there's some on racism that we're just not really seeing come up. But honestly, that didn't even come up. You know, it's sort of like, I mean, I'd like to see more of that as well. But I do think there's probably some room for that to have been there. We just didn't see it. So then this thing happens that I won't explain too much about, because you'll see it. But this thing happens with Corbin where he saves face by lying to Sincere. And my way of understanding it was like, actually what happened was you were being guided by your girl. And so you didn't want to admit that you followed your girl's plan. And so instead you came up with a lie about why you chose to do a thing. And so he ended up lying to his guy friends. Yeah. And it was totally image management. And also just sort of like, why? Like, is it because you don't want to admit that you would follow your girl's plan? And everyone else would be like, why would you do that? Why would you follow your girl? Like, so it just felt like this, like, image management again, just in the immediate sense with this man. So I didn't like that. Here's my distinction of this versus people pleasing. So that's image management. My opinion of people pleasing is in the dynamic between Kata and Zach. So there's a dynamic. Yeah, there's a dynamic that comes up after Casa, way after Casa, where he suggests something and she goes along with it and she ends up defending it to Trinity, but in her mind doesn't want it, doesn't like it. She, like, the thing he proposes, she doesn't like it, but like you can tell she doesn't, because she even asks someone else like something that shows that she was curious about that dynamic with them, and then she finds out the answer and she's sort of like, oh, like, so there's like things where in my mind it was really obvious she felt a certain way about it, but then felt like she had to defend it
because she felt like she couldn't tell Zach the truth. So I ended up saying to my husband, I was like, you know what? This is really sad, because even if she was, in my opinion, she's not okay with it, and she can't tell Zach that. And so that's people pleasing. That is where it is, where it's like, that's not image management, because actually people watching are like, why aren't you telling him? You know, so it's like, not that. It's like, it's much more people pleasing Zach. And so that made me feel shitty for her, crummy in general, and bummed. And I also felt like that speaks to the prevalence in American adults by YouGov. Their survey they did that 48% of American adults in general rated definitely or probably would describe themselves as people pleasers, and 47% said they would not. So it's about 50%. But then among women, 52% of women said that they're people pleasers, whereas 44% of men said that. So it is more common among women. Yep, it does track, exactly.
She's an Aquarius babe too. I saw.
She's my rising sign. I know.
I love my Aquarius babes. Like, I feel like she's weird. She's kind of hard to read. She's funny. I really like her.
She's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. She kind of keeps it moving. I'm like, oh, don't people please Zach. That makes me sad.
Yeah.
I loved when she was like, we're going to have sex. I was like, yeah, you are.
I know. I loved it. She's so funny. She's so great. I mean, she's someone you and I would totally hang out with. I totally agree. She's definitely like I love hanging. And also makes sense that she's geographically close to where we are too, so that makes sense as well. But yeah, there were definitely times where I just was so rooting for her. I've been rooting for her the whole time, but then there's just those moments where I just want to be like, I wish I could help you with that. And so that's where I think if she were my client, I would look very directly at that, because this is the last point. Well, okay, because there's one more point, but I can't tell you until you watch the rest of it, so I won't tell you that part. But the last thing I'll end on is that people-pleasing itself, using relational cultural therapy, which is what I would use as the model. As y'all know, if you listen, this is our favorite model, both of us. So relational cultural theory is a feminist relational model. And one of the things that they look at are something called strategies of disconnection, which are these things that we do where we think we're doing it to connect with people, but actually keeps them at arm's length because we're fearful of vulnerability and authenticity because we don't want to get rejected. And so actually people-pleasing is a type of what's called moving toward strategy of disconnection, where as a way of keeping people at arm's bay, we over placate or we over please as a way of letting go of our own needs to try to get validation from them. And so that's very much what she's doing. And I think we see it a little bit with what Sincere was doing, but I think it's much more commonly viewed with the women. And I think very much so with Kata, that's what's happening with her, where she thinks that it's helping her stay close to Zach by not telling him how she feels. But actually it's not, because she's now holding this thing in that she's not telling him. He has to read between the lines, which it confuses him. If they leave together and then she tells him, he's going to feel betrayed. I mean, the whole, it's like this whole thing where it's actually going to end up really hurting her if she doesn't just tell him the truth. And so even though she sees it as a bid for connection, it actually is betraying that and is keeping her vulnerability out of the chat. So I would work with her very directly around that and what that looks like and how to negotiate sort of like sharing your views without feeling like you're going to get rejected, or without putting yourself in a position where you feel like you will have caused a rejection if it happens, basically. Yeah, exactly. I think your turn. Yeah, you ask me.
Yes. So next is, we spotted a socio-political moment. So this could be anti-racism, heterosexism, zeitgeist, cultural climate, diverse cultural representation. What did you see? Tell me about it.
So I've already talked about a couple things that are racist. I will now tell you about things related to consent. Consent is one of those topics that I feel very strongly about because I care a lot about sexual violence, trauma, and so forth, as y'all know about the book I was asked to write. But in this case, I have positives and negatives. So first of all, getting motherfucking consent from Beatrice at Aftersun to bring out Sean, I will absolutely not. I was so excited. So what happened was, in the Aftersun, she was on the stage first, but Sean was also in the mix. As you know, they both went home around the same time. And before they brought Sean out, they stopped and said, this is where we would bring Sean out. Is that okay? What?
I love this.
I was like, I was like, oh my God, look at them go. Yeah. I was like, well, how obviously different is that from like poor, sweet, amazing Jen at the end of The Bachelorette, when she was very much like asked fakely, like, is it okay? We're going to play the engagement now. Is that okay? And she was like, obviously I don't have a choice. Like, it's like, that was so traumatizing just to watch. I can't even imagine for her. So to have this literally be with meaning, they're like, is that okay if we bring him out? She was like, yeah. I was like, oh my God, I love it so much. Like, look at progress.
Yes.
So good. I love it. It was so good. So then you flip that on its head, and where is the fucking consent with the Casa Amor women when they're coming out and getting hands up their fucking butt crack? Like, the way that those men were with them while they were dancing was one of the worst things I've ever seen on TV. Like, I honestly was like, what? And so talk about Bryce, by the way. He was one of the people where I felt like he was one of the only people who grabbed their asses as they were walking away. And that actually is a distinction that matters. So like, a lot of them were doing it while they were dancing on them, which is already a mess. Like, first of all, they're not exotic dancers. Even if they were exotic dancers, you don't touch exotic dancers. If you do touch exotic dancers because they're hired in a private party context, that means that they have consent. They have given you consent in some way to be touched. I doubt, and I hope that they did. Love Island filmed each of those women giving consent to be touched. I doubt they did. And if they did, I will totally shut my mouth about it, but I doubt they did. And I think they need to. If they're going to do that again, they had to do that. That's a definite. And I don't know if they thought that the men would do that, because honestly, that was like, whoa, like I was shocked.
A lot.
I was
they
shocked.
Were like upping the ante.
It was like group think. Exactly. It was like group think. It just kept getting worse and worse, like fingers going further up their butt cracks. And then like the women feeling like they kind of had to do that. And I just felt so bad for them. I felt bad for their
in a power down position.
It was horrific. Oh my God. Exactly. So, but most of the men were doing that while they were dancing, and then they took their hands off when women would back up. And I noticed that Bryce was the only one that he wasn't actually touching them when they were doing that. And then as they would walk away, he would then like jiggle their butts as they were walking away. I was like, Bryce, absolutely not. Like, absolutely not. That is so inappropriate. It would be anyway, but like something about that was so objectifying. It was next level. I was like, that is so fucked up. And I can't believe this is being shown on TV, but I also can't believe that they did that. And I can't believe there was no discussion about it. And then after that all happens, the women come out to meet them, and the men all stay seated, and the women are going around meeting. It was like as if they're going around meeting them, shaking their hands. It was as if they were going around at the end of a baseball game being like, good game, good game, good game, good game. You know, it was like that kind of a thing. I just was like, where is the humanity here? Like, you need to stand your fucking asses up, which only Caleb did, and props to Caleb for doing so. Stand your asses up and treat them like humans. Like, instead you're doing this weird thing where you're like letting them parade for you. It was like so egregious. I was so appalled. So I just think that was a very big lack of consent, and something I very much was disgusted by. I think that needs to change immediately. I can't even believe I saw it on TV. I was like, that's horrific. Yeah, like absolutely not. And I felt terrible about it. So then to end on a positive note, the last one about consent is then we see a scene where the women are watching the men working out. And sort of they're like gushing about like, oh, this is my favorite show to watch, or like, this is my favorite TV show. And I just want to say that like, I'm the first person in those scenarios, or not the first, I am often one of the people in those scenarios to be like, well, if that was women, like, then that would mean that, you know, like that wouldn't be allowed. Like, that would be really not okay. Like, to be like, oh, it's our favorite channel, and like be watching the women do something. And I sort of started to say that to my husband. I was just sort of like, I mean, if that were women, that wouldn't really be like great, right? And then he was like, you know what, men had their chance and they abused it. He was like, they had their chance to be able to watch women and say something about their bodies, and they way overdid it, so now they don't get that chance anymore. And he was like, and women do, because they don't do that. And I was like, the fuck? I was like, feminist husband, what? I was like, absolutely. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, they went too far. He's like, so it's okay for women to do it now, but it's not okay for men. They went too far. And I looked at him and I was like, what the fuck just happened right there? I was like, you're so feminist, look at you. And he was like, no. He's like, that's not even that wise. He's like, that's just common knowledge. I was like, what? I was like, no, it isn't.
I love it.
True. Like,
I love it.
It's like, it's common knowledge in our bones as women. Like, we know that, but like, I don't think men think of it that way, and they absolutely should. They did. They abused their right. So now, yeah, in all of those scenarios, I'm no longer going to be like, yeah, if that were women, da, da, da. By the way, anytime I say something like that, where I'm like, if it were women, it'd be different, I always have the caveat of like, but historically speaking, women have been marginalized, so it's not the same. Right. Like, I always do that. And that's true too. But the way that he put it just seems so simple and like to the point. I was like, yeah, you're right. They abused their right. So fuck that. Goodbye.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Period. End of sentence.
Exactly. With a T. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Okay. Give me yours. So sociopolitical.
Loved when Trinity was standing up for Anaya and talking about dating as a darker skinned Black woman and how it might make her more insecure. I loved how she did it. It's just like, it wasn't even, she didn't over explain. She's just like, this is a fact. This is just a truth, right? Like, this is just what it is. And I thought it was great. And yeah, period. I so appreciate her.
Yeah, she was, the two of them together are so fantastic too. And yeah, I totally agree. I think she was one to definitely get her voice heard, which I loved. Trinity was, and that it was so well informed was obviously what made that even better. I think that's fantastic. So tell me for this next one, You can either say there's an A or B here. My cat is trying desperately to get in the window, which is why my head did a quick like river over there, but we're going to see what happens. See if you can get in here or not. Chili, it's fine. Don't do that. Okay, whatever. He can come in. Okay. Yeah. So then you have one of two options. Option A, this is something raised in the episodes that we as psychologists wish people knew more about. Or you could take the option B, which is this is something that we thought people would mention the following day because it's important, but they didn't.
Well, I guess maybe they did on Aftersun, but the whole lustful thing, I really took issue with. It was so slut-shamey. It was so, you're looking, the intersection of like slut-shaming and like Bible, as if women are like inherently lustful and it's like a sin when women are lustful. That's how it sounds to me in a way that makes me instantly like super uncomfortable. I just really don't like it. And it feels like it's a part of the manosphere. I looked into it to see, and I don't think it, at least in what I saw, it wasn't. But I could totally see this being manosphere language because they seemed,
yeah, exactly. I think it probably is. It's just new.
Yeah, they seemed pretty like, what's the word? I'm missing my word.
Like
it
normalized?
seemed like, yeah, it seemed like a word that people were using. That it's just a weird term to just use, but they seem pretty fluent. That's the word. They seem pretty fluent in thinking that this was like, oh, you're lustful. Oh, I'm being lustful. Got it. Where I would be like, what? You're calling me fucking lustful? What do you mean by that? That's such a strange thing to say. Yeah, you mean a human being with needs? Cool.
Yeah. Like, wait, I have a sexual system? What?
Yeah, it's just, but then, you know, the women were like, oh, you're calling me, I don't think I'm being lustful. Like, it seemed like there was some sort of fluency in that term that I'm not understanding. But I'm like, what the fuck is this? I hate it. And it needs to stop right away because anyone can be lustful if you want to, consensually, you know, consensually and ideally, like, you know, you communicate to other partners that that's what you're doing, but we can all be lustful. It's fine.
Watch some heated rivalry. Watch some heated rivalry for some great examples of consensual lusting. And I think the whole thing is that they should not be mutually exclusive. You can be lusting and loving, and those things can go together. And in fact, I think that's often a great ingredient to go together. So I think absolutely this sort of like false dichotomy is terrible. The all bad thing is terrible. That's another part of the dichotomy is the sort of like all bad to be lustful. It's terrible. Yeah, I totally agree. Great one.
Yes. But what about you? What is something you thought people would mention the following day?
I noticed this thing with Corbin where Melanie said to him, she was temporarily paired with Corbin. So they were talking for a little bit. Sincere was with Soul. She told Corbin, I'm really not over Sincere, so I'm going to sleep up in Soul Ties and so forth. But in one of their first conversations, she goes, she's like, yeah, so my name's Melanie. She's like, I don't like Mel. She's like, so Mela or Melanie are fine, but not Mel. And literally like 2 scenes later, we see Corbin say to Bryce in the bathroom, Mel isn't sleeping in here tonight. And I was like, what the fuck? Did you just hear her? Like, she literally just told you not that thing. Anything else? Not that thing. And it was clear that like that had happened temporarily after because it was different times of day. So it was sort of like, I was like, oh no, like total disregard for that, immediately disregarding it. And it just sort of made me feel like this is one of those things I would hope people would think is important and that they would mention the next day because it's like using people's correct names is so important. And especially in thinking about trans folks, it's like more than ever, this is something that's in the zeitgeist as part of the conversation of really important, but it's been important since the beginning of time. If someone tells you how they want to be referred to, refer to them that way. Why is that hard? I don't really get it.
It's not. Just do it.
Truly not. Truly just not fucking hard.
Oof. Well, that is a great one. Yes, that's a good catch too. Very subtle, but yeah. Like, come on, Corbin, get it together. So am I up or are you up?
Yeah, you're up. It's the last one. Mm-hmm.
Oh. So this is something we have mentioned previously. What is something we've mentioned previously that you noticed?
Fabulous. So this one will not make sense to you yet, but when you see it, you're going to start laughing. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun one because it's very minor. It's also subtle. There is something said. So after someone has been scolded for like talking too close with someone else, like they were sort of like, so they were like, now they're on hyper alert about the fact that they're being too flirty. They went to the person they were being too flirty to and they called them big dog. And so he was like, all right, big dog. He's like, all right, big dog. And then I literally out of my mouth go, Big Dog is crazy. Like, I try not to say is crazy in general. Like, we try not to use that word, but I just was like, Big Dog is crazy. And literally the next thing out of that woman's mouth was, Big Dog is crazy. Like, it just the exact same way. And my husband and I both were just like, oh my God. And we just started cracking up like that. It was wild. We just said it the exact same way at the exact same time. And then it came up on Aftersun and the women said it the exact same way too. So then they were like, they actually said, Big Dog is fucking crazy. But it was just so funny that they picked up on that too. And I was just like, wow, that is hilarious. And even though I didn't mention it prior to it happening, I did. I mentioned it prior to her saying it.
Yeah,
but,
you sure did.
Yeah, I took it right out of her mouth. Yeah, it was so funny. It was just so funny. There was the exact same intonation and everything too. Just the way, like, what the fuck? I'm sorry, what? And it was actually kind of, again, subtle. Like, he wasn't just like, they didn't do like a dun dun or anything, you know, but he just was like, all right, Big Dog. And I was like, Big Dog is crazy. And then she was like, Big Dog is crazy. I was like, oh, that's right.
Like a way to be like, hey, buddy, after you've been flirty with someone, it's like, okay. What are you? I'm
sorry. That's crazy. Stop that right now.
Let's not rewrite this story here. I'm not your big dog. I'm not your buddy. Exactly. Oh, that's hilarious. I cannot wait to see whatever the fuck that is.
You are going to love it. It's going to be great. Yeah. So how about you? Is there something we've mentioned before that you noticed as well?
Yeah, we've mentioned before that the cast is getting more conservative, and it is interesting to see how young people seem to be getting more conservative. It's just notable because it's so different than when I was coming up as a young person, right? And we know the pendulum tends to swing. You know, we had like the Bush era presidency stuff that we were contending with, newly like Obama. And people were at least the people that I was in the community with, and I think the zeitgeist in general was more to the left. Now I'm seeing that shift, and it's weird. It's weird for me. It's just wild in some ways, but it is notable.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I think some of the polls are saying otherwise in this moment, but it's also about like who's voting.
Good.
And thank God, by the way. Yeah. Like I literally was like, like I don't know if I can handle it anymore. But which is very important. And we are at the 2-year mark, so it's really key. But I will say that's different people who are voting, and so that's because those are regional, local elections. So people like the folks on Love Island would not be those people voting. So it does mean that when they get to the voting polls, it'll be interesting as well. But and hopefully not as bad as it's feeling, because I agree. I think the viewpoints of really most of the people, especially the men in the show, I was like, where are we from? Like, we're not like physically, but like what era? You know, it's like,
is this 2003? Yeah. Like, what are we doing?
Why is no one mentioning racism? Like, why has no one mentioned that before? You know, like Trinity's mentioned like up against it a few times in the most important ways, in very important ways. But none of the men have mentioned racism one time. Not one time. I've heard them say no things about racism. And a number of them are men of color. And then I will say, too, that Sierra, amazing work. Like right on Aftersun, like one of the things that made me not like Teffy for a second was that Sierra said, and I've been looking forward to talking about, can we talk about the diversity? And Teffy goes, yeah, the backgrounds. And I was like, no. Not the backgrounds. Like the races are different. And then sure enough, Sierra goes, the races, the backgrounds, you know, she like built it in, but like started somewhere else. And I was like, yes, exactly. The point is the races, there's racial difference. And that's important. There is important that there's different shades, different skin tones, different races. And the fact is no one else is fucking talking about it. So like, thank God Sierra is. So that's the only caveat.
Abso-frickin-lutely. Thank you, Sierra, for the good work you're doing, and I cannot wait to watch Aftersun now. I'm very excited.
Please do. And we did already give you all our call to action pretty succinctly, so we'll just say, in addition to the Instagram at Reality Test Podcast and Patreon at patreon.com/Reality Test, or you go to the site and you search at Reality Test, that we also have Facebook and YouTube at Reality Test Pod, and then you also could Gmail us at realitycheckpodding@gmail.com.
Yes, and don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and tell all your friends.
And friends that are here that were friends that were told by your friends, tell your friends. Have them come too. And in the meantime, we'll be thinking about y'all. And thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to our fans. We really appreciate y'all seriously immensely. So thank you for your money, time, and effort. And thank you for their future money, time, and effort from others. And we will see you next session. Bye.